Let's take a look at some examples here. Write an explicit definition for each of the following sequences and find the 20th term for each. So the first thing I want to know is what's the common difference? 3, 5, 7, 9, ... What's that pattern? It's a +2 pattern, so we know our D is 2. The other thing I need to know is a sub 1. A sub 1 in this case is 3. So if you look at the top of your paper, the formula a sub n equals a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times d is our general rule. We said that we're replacing a sub 1 and d, and that's it. So a sub n stays a sub n equals a sub 1 becomes 3 plus parentheses n minus 1 I just copy, and then our d would be a times 2. Now, that would probably be good enough to get you a point, but you're not finished here. We don't want to leave this the way that it is. They want you to move everything and combine like terms. So what property do you see here? I see the distributive property. So I have a sub n equals 3 plus 2n minus 2 when I distribute, and now I'm going to combine 3 and minus 2. So my final explicit formula here is a sub n equals 2n, 3 minus 2 is 1, plus 1. That's the formula. Pause if you need to copy anything before I go on to find the 20th term. Finding the 20th term in this is a lot easier than in a recursive sequence, because all I need to know is that n is 20. So if I want to know the 20th term, I want to know a sub 20, I'm going to take my sequence formula that I just wrote, and where I see n, I'm going to replace it with 20, because n is 20 in this case. And now I can just use a calculator, or do that in my head. 2 times 20 is 40, plus 1. So the 20th term is 41. Let's look at example B now. So the first two things we wanted to know were what's D and what's a sub 1. A sub 1 we should be fairly familiar with now is -2. Okay, what's my D value? So -2 to 4, 4 to 10, 10 to 16, looks like that's a +6. So my D is a +6. Remember, our formula is written down above for us, so I can just copy that, and I'm replacing a sub 1 and D. So a sub n equals, a sub 1 is -2 plus parentheses n minus 1 times 6. Not times +6, don't get confused here, just times 6. Distribute my 6, a sub n equals -2 plus 6n minus 6, and combine my like terms, a sub n equals 6n minus 8. Be careful when you're combining. Now to find the 20th term, we take that formula we just wrote, and for n, I'm going to plug in 20. So I have 6 times 20 minus 8. Again, you can do that in your head, or you can use a calculator. You should be getting 112 for the 20th term of that sequence. Pause and make sure you have all the notes. I'm going to guide you through this next one. The first thing I want you to do is tell me what's a sub 1 and what's D on your paper. If you need more time, pause before looking at the answers. A sub 1 is 10, and D in this case is a -10. Now, see if you can fill in the information into the formula. Again, if you need more time, pause the video. Your formula should say a sub n equals 10 plus n minus 1 times -10. Now the only difference here is I just need to be careful when I distribute. So I would do a sub n equals 10 n times negative 10 is minus 10n, and negative times negative is plus 10. So this equation will be negative 10n plus 20. Now before we go on here, quick question. Does that look like anything to you? Anything you recognize? Remember, arithmetic sequences are kind of similar to linear functions. So if you look at the right-hand side, it's kind of like mx plus b, only instead of x, I have an n. So keep that in mind. This, if I were to graph it, would look linear. Alright, now on to plugging in for 20. Try that on your own and see what you get. Pause the video and press play when you have an answer. So a sub 20 is negative 10 times 20 plus 20. And when you type that in your calculator or multiply that out, you should get negative 180. Last one on the front side here. First thing I want you to do, tell me what is a sub 1 and what is d. A sub 1 is 27 and d is a minus 4 pattern. Okay, pause and plug it into the formula. Your formula should say a sub n equals 27 plus n minus 1 times negative 4. Now go on and distribute and find the combine like terms to find the final answer that we're looking for. You should have gotten a sub n equals negative 4n plus 31. Now go on and find the 20th term. Hopefully you got negative 49 for the 20th term. If you didn't, go back and check your work and see where you made a mistake. When you're ready, turn the page. What I want you to start off by doing on the back is finding the d value for each of these sequences. If you don't pause the video and take this seriously and just keep playing and copy the answers, you're not going to really learn how to do it. So pause the video. Yes, I said pause it. And try it on your own. Find out what the d value is, and even if you want to write down a1 at this point, that would be okay too. Check your answers. I wrote them off to the side a little bit because it was hard to see on the white. So for E, you should have minus 2 for D. For F, negative 13. For G, minus 6. For H, a plus 8 pattern. For I, a plus 2. And for J, a negative 22. Now the next thing I want you to do is go through and write down all the explicit equations, distribute, and get your final answer, and then come back and check. So pause the video again at this point. Check your answers before you go through and find the 20th term of each. So for E, you should have gotten a sub n equals negative 2n minus 2. For F, a sub n equals negative 13n plus 97. If you made a mistake anywhere, pause and find out where you made your mistake. Make sure your notes are correct so you don't have incorrect notes to study and do your homework from. G should say a sub n equals negative 6n plus 25, and H should say a sub n equals 8n plus 1. The answer for I is a sub n equals 2n minus 5, and the answer for J is a sub n equals negative 22n plus 132. Alright, good. Now go back and do a sub 20 or the 20th term for each of these, and then come back and check your answers for those. For E, a sub 20 is negative 42. For F, a sub 20 is negative 163. G, a sub 20 is negative 95. H, a sub 20 is 161. Are you sick of 20 yet? We got 2 more to go here. Okay, those last 2. I, a sub 20 is 35, and J, a sub 20 is negative 308. You need to make sure all your notes are correct, or you are not going to get a homework assignment if your notes are not filled out. We got one more problem to get through here, so bear with me, and let's get through this last one. For each of the defined arithmetic sequences, find the following terms. What I like to do before I'm going to keep going here and find the terms is I want to distribute that d value out and get this down to look like mx plus b form, because otherwise sometimes we make mistakes with our order of operations and getting that number that we want. Like, we don't want to add the 7 plus 3 in part A before we distribute that 3. So let's first distribute the 3 and get those like terms combined and simplify this equation here. Okay, so if I distribute that 3, I have a sub n equals 7 plus 3n minus 3. And combine those like terms, 3n plus 4. Now to get a sub 5, what am I plugging in for n? 5, that's it. So it's 3 times 5 plus 4. That's all I have to do here. So a sub 5 equals 15 plus 4, which is 19. Now the other one, a sub 50, same thing, only if n is going to be 50 this time. 3 times 50 plus 4. So a sub 50, 3 times 50 is 150 plus 4 is 154. And there's my two answers. So try this one on your own. Simplify the formula first, and then go and find b of 6 and b of 22. Pause the video and come back when you're done. So b of n equals negative 21n plus 407 is the simplified formula. When I plugged in 6, I got 281 for the 6th term, and when I plugged in 22, I got negative 55 for the 22nd term. Congratulations, you've reached the end of this video. Next thing you need to do is go on to Schoology, do the exit ticket, and then you may begin working on the practice.